Let's get right to Sunday's event so that the brothers and sisters can know what's going on. This is a replay of the lecture that took place last month, correct?
Correct. On the
Okay.
5th.
Okay, so it's by popular demand. You're bringing it back on a replay system.
Yeah, a lot of people were asking
Yeah, a lot
for
of
it.
people are asking. So just give us the information where we can immediately get this, on the books.
Indeed. Well, if they having a problem finding the link, they can send a request to my private email.
And I
And
just
that,
put it in the chat as well.
yeah, Sanu, not this one. It's Sanu777 at Gmail. You send it to SUNNU. This is just the PayPal.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Oh, okay.
the My private email is S as in science, UNNU 777 at Gmail.
Okay.
And what to do is when the time comes, if you are requesting the webinar, please in the subject box put in all capital letters webinar. But then I'll know exactly how to address it.
Right.
It's easier for me to look and see, and I can send it out as immediately as possible. And we're going to be speaking about a number of things. The title is called Ontology and the Metaphysical Awakening of the Melanated Mind. The Metaphysical Awakening of the Melanated Mind. And it's going to be touching on some very deep, high level PhD metaphysics in the front part. Then I'm going to kind of segue into dealing with not only the health part, but our commercial and financial health, which I've been fortunate not only to deal with JP, what we call Juice Plus, as you all know. I'm a very heavy proponent on that. And anybody's wishing that, just to let you know that if one of the parents do acquire the JP, then a child 4 years of age and over, all the way up into college, can receive the JP Plus for free.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have over 2 million children or people on the JP Children's protocol,
Oh, wow.
and they get it for free once one of their parents are part of it, out of our partnership. So I would suggest that they definitely talk about their health, especially in these times when they're trying to, in the next, I would say, few months, going into the winter, you're going to start seeing all other kinds of germs and viruses come out of nowhere. They're going to pop out of nowhere.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially like you said, when the weather changes, the energy changes, the vibration changes, and whatever these parasitic elite have planned,
Yeah.
they're gonna ramp that back up. You can get that.
It's all right. I'll get it.
You know what I mean? And so we'll put the fly up periodically as well, just
Okay.
so people can have a steady reminder of what's coming on Sunday. And I
Yeah.
advise the brothers and sisters to get in there, and because I don't know how many more lectures the good doc is going to do in this
Right.
capacity. So,
Yes.
and he's like really one of the last ones standing in terms of the eldership due to transitioning and other things. So we really appreciate you even taking time and still staying in tune with the people because it's been critical.
Yes, it has been. And kudos to you and your son for also being out there because most people don't understand how dangerous this is and it's going to become. The more censorship that comes on, the more that the work we do is going to be targeted. And the people are, of course, going through everything that they're going through. We're not taking that away from them. But this type of information is at one point or another going to be censored. And they're going to do their best to shut down sites that actually tell the truth. In other words, the truth is going to become a, um, a terrorist act.
That actually goes into like what we are trying to discuss today because we've been like going in on how the media has just like really warped people's mind on something like I've never really seen. I'm only 28. I've never seen like the amount of mind control and censorship that I've seen in the past like 4 years. I would say like when Trump got in, I would say like that was the first time I saw like a tidal wave directed at one person. And then once the COVID and pandemic stuff started happening as well, that's the first time I saw that uh, amount of effort to censor people, to shut people down, to ban people, shadow ban, and things like that. So like what why would you say like in the past 5 years it's ramped up so much in the media and how they've been just kind of mind controlling people, I guess.
Yeah, well, you hit it on the head. I got a call from a brother from Kenya, I believe it was, and he was talking to another brother in Tanzania and in different parts of Africa, and another brother over there who was dealing with, capoeira in Brazil. And I had this kind of link going on between these brothers, and it was saying that there was a part where when I was talking about the last, I think one or two were the webinars that they were trying to broadcast to a little group of people, and that little village, the police, after they found out what was going on, they shut down the electricity to that area be-
Wow.
because of the webinar. Because there were people hanging around this one little TV watching what it is that was being broadcast, and they had a rig that they had set up. And I'm saying, well, how, I mean, we're in the 21st century, and the people have to stand around a small TV
Yeah.
in order for it to happen, and it's ridiculous. But I know how potent the truth is going to be in the future, and it's going to be a very rare commodity because the imagery, the way that the computer, the AI is actually being advanced, it's you're not going to know whether or not you are in the real world or in the digital world. And it's set up the way what I was saying, that during the so-called COVID, which really means, and I know you can't speak about that,
No, we can
but
speak about that on this network because
network.
we're gonna chop it up. Don't worry about it.
Okay, and what happened is that the actual attack itself and what we were going through at that particular time, the the stuff that they were putting into us, let's just say, it had a it was to put us into direct contact with a particular programming of AI. Now, what they're doing is when they take your blood and when they take certain images of you, what they're doing is feeding that into the AI, and what the AI is learning is what it means to be a human being and what it is that runs a human being: electricity, magnetism, and different type. There's that spiritual component that it still can't touch, but all of what is expressed from it, it's codifying. And what they do now is, because they have got trackers running in your bloodstream, the computer, through what they call the satellites and the 5G and so forth, can track you and actually have an image of you in the AI that's a neo energy of you. And they're tracking you to actually create a virtual world. And the preliminary steps to that is the metaverse. The
So let me
first step,
hold on before you go any further. So are you saying they're making a replication of me that is not actually me
that's you,
that could wind up in another uh,
virtual
m-
world.
and the metaverse is the doorway to
Right.
this
It's the
happening?
Yes, that's the acclimation
Holy
point.
shit.
That's to get
Wow.
you set into that particular type of interactivity with something that does not have a soul. And so what they're doing is they're trying to give a soul-like representation, because if you look at the graphics today, the graphics are becoming more and more sophisticated, more and more lifelike. And if you look at some of the special effects of Hollywood today, you can't tell that a dinosaur ain't walking right next to you.
That's a fact.
You see what I'm saying? So that world is being formulated as well as specialized and perfected. And your body is going to be the imaging factor to set up what's now you're going to be in that world. Now it's going to become so sophisticated. Your doppelganger, your image is going to become so sophisticated that the materials running along inside of you is going to be connected to that particular avatar that they created of you, and you are going to be giving the your emotions, everything you're thinking about, all of the different chemical workups through your thought process is being fed into this computer. Now you're not going to know when the computer is powerful enough to take over what they have inside of your mind. So now no longer your thoughts belong to you, but is actually being calibrated in the AI and broadcast to you. So
Question,
this,
question, question.
Mhm.
I mean, you're going up top, Doc. So I gotta interject a little bit from time to time here.
Yeah,
So let me ask you, my interface now with social media and all of that, is this a part of how they're gathering a psychoanalysis of who I am personally to make sure that my avatar is like almost perfect? Like I would think that that's me.
yeah. You would think it's you, and the thing is, the world that is being created right now to circumvent your reality is the way they are actually operating to transcend. We as melanated people transcend spiritually because of the melanin. Melanin is the doorway, it's the gateway, it's the folded. Melanin is the expressed intelligence of the hydrogen atom.
Wow.
The hydrogen atom is the foundation to all physical life. First, third, second, third, and fourth dimension, fifth dimension. The hydrogen atom, in all of its expressions, give us dimensionality. And so, what's happening at this particular time is we are the first order entities that were created from the universal spirit. When the universal spirit expressed itself to know itself, there were first order entities that were created or actually existed at the same time that particular presence, what they call the Big Bang today. They're trying to minimize it into what they call the Big Bang. But first order entities were the ones that began to create the matrix itself for life, organic life, to take place in the latter dimensions. So from the first, second, third, the third dimension is the compression for the expression of that God self in an avatar. Third dimension is a pressure zone. We're underwater, as I was taught. You may have heard me say that this is essentially nothing more than water. That the air is not air, what as we think it is. Air, the air is nothing more than a qualified form of water, and so we are compressed into this under a compressed hydrogen dome because you cannot have an atmosphere unless you have isolated the particular area that you wish to have that atmosphere. There is no outer space. For you to actually have an atmosphere, there needs to be a containment. And people are not being taught the correct things in science. For instance, how do you have oxygen and all of what we call the layers, stratosphere, ionosphere, and so forth, which are gaseous? How is that existing directly in conjunction with a vacuum?
Right, right.
You
Why is it
cannot.
not just being dispersed throughout the
Indeed,
whole universe?
indeed. Why is it that what we breathe is not being blown and taken completely off of the earth? Well, they say gravity and the spin. It's a lot of nonsense. We are in a containment. And the only way you can have an atmosphere is if you live within a containment, like a terrarium. You see? And we are in what is called, and nobody has been yet to disprove me. I've been saying we're under a compressed hydrogen dome. And that's what they call the dome. That's what they call the new. Our ancestors called the new. That when you saw the stars, the things are circling above us. We're not circling around anything.
Wow.
So just to give you an idea about what's going on inside of this computer system that we're in, um, the very fact that you have one of these, we're caught up into one of these. This also is to entrain your consciousness, to make you dependent upon an artificial entity
Yes.
in order to be able to communicate and to create a society where it's necessary for you to communicate in that manner. That there is that time is sped up. Children are growing up faster than they should, and we have a saying: "Quick to ripe, quick to rot." You see, so our children. You remember the time when we were children. It seems like like the days were longer. There was a quieter and things were a bit slower,
Yes, easy going.
easygoing, and it is not that way today.
At all.
It's a fast pace towards a brick wall. So what we have to do now is to teach our children escape velocity, and escape velocity takes place in here. We are trapped under a kind of gravitational force, and there's no such thing as gravity, however, but we use that word gravity. There's a kind of a compression force that is that is almost like the coal becoming the diamond, and this is what's going on at this particular time. We're under a great amount of pressure, so that the diamond within us comes forward, so that we can shine.
Let me ask a question real quick.
Mhm.
CERN, so the Hydro Collider, collider and all of that.
The Hadron Collider.
Yeah, Hadron Collider. Can you give me? Were they trying to reenact the Big Bang? Were they looking for the soul? Were they trying to get the God gene? What were they trying to express with this experiment? Should I say?
They were actually trying to breach the time tunnel. They were trying to create a time tunnel.
Oh.
And what
Like a
happened was,
Stargate?
yeah, almost like a Stargate, but they wanted to escape the dome. Remember, they tried to blow it up at one point.
Right.
Okay, and that was take place in the Pacific when they were dealing with operation. I forgot the different operations, but they were trying to blow a hole in the dome, but the dome stayed and it shut them down. So now what they're doing, they find out that, you see, teaching our young people about time is that the way they teach about time is to set aside a concept of time that we've kind of latched onto and therefore made it a reality. But time is actually a process of thought. And this is why they have to definitely get hold of your thinking process. Now, why am I saying that? Well, most people don't know that there are four elements, four foundational elements: fire, air, water, and earth. These four foundational elements have a fifth element that people think is ether. It's not. The fifth element is time, because without that particular fabric that is created, nothing coheres, nothing congeals together.
Wow.
Now, the timing is shown in the way that is pulsed. The pulse relativity is what creates our third density. Your heart beat, your breath are all pulse related that fixes you to third density. That that's that 6/8 timing, do, 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 that is the pulse relativity of third density. That's your heartbeat. And right in the sino-auricular node of the heart is the seat of the soul. The soul is not up here. The soul sits in the heart. That's why your ancestors weighed the heart
Yep.
against the feather.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay? So we're not teaching our children the truth, or they're not teaching our children the truth. Okay? And this is what we intend to do with our school. Now, the webinar coming up is going to drop some of these particular jewels on our beloved brothers and sisters and give them an idea of what we teach in our university and what we prepare our people for in our university. Thought is time.
Now,
Understand that thought
is
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 time.
is thought and time a third dimensional density thing or third density thing? When we start speaking about fourth density and beyond, are we under the same constraints, or is that a different vibrational understanding of time itself?
See, what thought does is puts us in the past. It's a calibration and a cataloging of past, what we call past. It sets up the structure for what we see as the third dimension, then, now, and what's to come. So these are all illusions. However, when we compress what we call reality, or when we place the reality fixture where things begin to create, where we begin to create animated entities, we have to understand that it's a timing protocol. That life is first a wave, then it becomes a particle, then it becomes a pulse. And the wave particle is what we are dealing with right now, because the wave that is actually coming over us now to change everything is to reactivate the pulse relativity of the particles that were created then. These particles have become toxic in our reality. We are breathing a toxic relativity. Remember, I told you about the so-called Akashic records. Most people was talking
Yes.
about the Akashic records, and they say the Akashic records represent all of what it is that we're dealing with in the consciousness of human activity. Well, I kept saying to people that the Akasha is water. Why did I say that?
Because it holds
Because
memory?
yes, didn't Dr. Ito teach
Yep.
you that water holds memory? Well,
Yes.
what else could the Akasha be if it's something that our ancient Dravidian ancestors showed us was the actual the archive for human activity and thoughts? If that's the case, then know that that's a qualified form of water,
It makes
and
sense.
they're tapping into it, and they're tapping into it, and so now they're understanding that in the Akasha, that was then, and the then, once you tap into it, can give you secrets that you're trying to dig up from the earth. They can give it directly from the mind of the people who are still activated and can still be tapped into if we know how to dial up the area code. And to dial up that area code, you need to raise that Kundalini energy and to open up the lamp of God that taketh away the sins of the world, what they call the pineal gland.
Are you familiar with the new Avatar movie called The Way of Water? I feel like
No,
I feel like there's a lot of water themed stuff happening this year. That's just me just kind of noticing. And what you said about like the water just kind of struck that back up. But there's a new movie from the Avatar coming out. It's called The Way of Water.
well, this is the part two of Avatar.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. It's called The Way
Oh,
of Water.
well, hey, well, see, this dude is usually always ahead of his time when he starts putting stuff down. From the time he did Aliens and Terminator and all the rest of those. And when he did Avatar, somebody stopped him in the airport and he says, When are you going to do some stuff about black people?" He says, "Oh, my black people are blue." Remember
Mm.
that? He said that to to the brother that asked him, "When are you going to do something with black people?" He says, "Well, I am." He said, "My black people are blue."
Wow.
And when he did Avatar, we think them people was copying and ripping off.
Yeah.
They know who they need to go back to get back to their spirituality. And that tree that's outside is the tree within us. Now they speak about the tree called Jurgarhad. Oh, I forgot the name of it that the Norsemen talked about. But in the North Pole, the reason why they don't want anybody up there was because the tree of life was supposed to be up there. It was supposed to be there that connected us directly to the polar star or Polaris. Okay, and we're circled. There's a circle of ice that's protecting all the other lands that's beyond the Arctic, which is why there was a visitation, and they were told, "Don't come over here until you're ready to accept you." And so that these, I think, 53 to 153 nations signed a pact to make sure that nobody, unless they've been cleared, can actually traverse that land.
That's a fact. Yeah. And speaking about music,
Yeah.
I remember you telling me you was in a music group back in the days. So when you made reference to your younger days, Phil used to dunk basketballs, be in a group. So it's important that our brothers and sisters know that you weren't a highly vibrational being to that degree all the time. And I think
Mm,
that's what makes you so relatable. And you know what I'm saying, to younger people, because you have these stories, you've been there, you've done it, and it's a part of our growing out of it into a level of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding which has to come. So I want you to speak on your music days for a minute and things of that nature.
well, those were some very very volatile but beautiful days. I have some great memories. I have some horrible memories as well. I mean, I played with some of the best. We opened up for James Brown. We opened up for Larry Graham. We opened up for the Delphonics, the Stylistics, the Five Stairs, all of them. We were in that circle and got to know the friends and so forth, and became met with Maurice White at uh,
Yes.
at, at Dr. Kanya Kakumba, Dr. Kanya Vashon Viki at the Tree of Life up there on 25th Street in Lenox Avenue, and it was called UCLA, the University, the corner of Lenox Avenue,
Yep. Yep.
right? And I had the pleasure of being the mentor and teacher to um, Philip Bailey's son, and we hung out together. If you go to my email, the picture there from my email is my wife and I hanging out with Verdine. And so we've had. I mean, there's an old song I did when I was 19 years of age called "You Have Everything That a Man Could Love," and I heard that the music that I created was actually sampled by Most Def, and yeah, I
Wow.
think it's called Holiday. He did a song called Holiday. That background music is mine,
Oh wow.
and about five others that were actually took that, and it was so interesting. I said I didn't know it, and somebody was playing it on YouTube, and I'm saying, and I wrote down something. I said, thank you for taking me back. We did this on an 8 track and a 16 track, and then we bumped it up to a 32 track. And back in the days, you do it in your basement.
Yes.
You
Yes.
you know, and so it was supposed to go into. We were supposed to get one of Buddha records, and what really got my group broke up because one of our songs that we wrote for Eddie Kendricks was actually stolen from us,
Oh.
and it was called Doctor Rock, ROKK, and we were listening to Boogie Down and the other ones, and so we wrote a song around that, and we found out that the bass line was taken because we gave the record to his name was Lane. I don't say his first name, but he was a lawyer that was supposed to be managing us, and he took our tape into, I think it was not Electrosylum, I think it was Epic Records, and that tape ended up in a very 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 popular in the hands of somebody who was almost godlike. And when we heard the bass line was going one way, but he flipped it and went the opposite way. Our guitar player heard it because they're the top like musicians, and it was like it crushed us. It broke the group up. Our bass player went with Shaka Khan. Our drummer went with Cameo.
Wow.
I mean, we broke up. It was heartrending because we were supposed to be what's his name, Sid Bernstein, who brought the Beatles over. We were supposed to have been managed by him, and Joe Scandori, big time. What's his name uh, from out of Las Vegas, was supposed to manage us, and he was managing Rodney Dangerfield at the time, but he wanted to deal with a punk rock group. In fact, you know. What's his name, who played in Living Color, used to come to our rehearsals. Um, Goodness gracious, the lead
Keenan.
guitar,
Oh,
huh?
oh.
No,
I was.
lead guitar player
Oh,
from
I'm way off. Okay.
no, no, no. This is a rock group. This is a rock group. We were supposed to, it was two groups that were supposed to go on Epic Records, Mother's Finest and Metaphor, and that was us. Um, that's the only part of my history, but you get the idea. We
So
were in the music business.
I have a question. So you talked about like a song being stolen and stuff like that. I don't know if
Yeah,
you noticed, but we've been following a trend on our podcast of these big name artists, huge artists, selling
yeah,
off their entire catalogs. Now, growing up, I was always told like, you keep your catalog. That's where the money is, and that's where like generational wealth comes from. Because a lot of our artists back in the day, they got robbed for their catalogs. But these artists who have it are now selling their catalogs. Even like white artists are selling their catalogs. So like, what do you think that is about?